get started, I'm guessing everyone knows they're in here. We're talking about arcane or cutting. I think I've listed in there with 2 different titles. And so, welcome. So, first of all, I would love to know from you guys who here likes to be powerful. I think everybody can probably raise their hand on that. Everyone likes to have power in some capacity, to be in control of certain things, to be able to have an influence, to be able to have an impact on certain areas of our life, if not all areas of our life. But now what I'm more curious about is what things, like what gives us power? Why do we have power? Where do we get it from? Anybody have any idea where this power comes from? From God. Great church answer. Any other ideas or thoughts on what makes us powerful? So control can give us power, inner strength. Pride gives us power.
Our social status.
Social status gives us power. Okay. Anything else that gives us power? I'll let you guys think about it. I'm going to write these down because I was actually curious what you guys would even say. So I want to write these down. You guys think about it.
Our head.
What was that?
Our brains.
Our brains give us power.
Talents.
Was that talents?
Yeah.
Talents. So social status, talents, brains, inner strength, pride. Emotions give us power. Okay? Position. So the position you have in people's lives. Yeah.
Money.
Money gives us power. Okay? Any other ideas and thoughts on what makes us powerful? Convictions and how we live our life. Yeah. Okay. Any other ideas? I'll take 1 or 2 more.
Physical appearance.
Physical appearance gives us power. Okay. Anything else? And I think that those are all. We're going to talk more about like what happens, where we get that power from. Because I do think that we all want it. Like that is something that we all look for, is to have an impact on our world, to make an impact on the things around us. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about the fact that this power that we had from the very beginning. This is something that, as one person answered, that God has given us. He's given us an ability to have an impact on our world from the absolute very beginning. So we're going to open up to Genesis. If you have your Bible, open up to Genesis. So we're going to look at things from the very beginning. Bless you. So we're going to look at Genesis 2. And I'm going to start out in verse 7. So we're going to kind of read through, but I'll skip around a little bit because there's some things in here that are details that don't pertain to what we're talking about necessarily. So start in verse 7. So setting it all up, chapter 1, we're talking about how God created the world. And then chapter 2, we start in on talking about how God created man, which happens in verse 7. Then the Lord formed the man from dust, from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. So one thing to point out here is the fact that he formed man differently than he formed everything else. Everything else he spoke into creation, and here he used his hands, molded it, and breathed life into it. And so there's just this I'm not going to sit here and talk about the big theology of it all, of how it all came up, but apparently it was an important to note by Moses that man was created differently than the rest of creation. And so therefore that makes us different. It makes us unique than the rest of creation. That was an important fact that we needed to know about. So now we're going to skip down to 15. The Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not treat, for in the day that you eat you shall surely die. So he formed man, and I find it interesting that as soon as he formed man, he put him to work. So maybe work is something that is an important thing to do, which might be somewhat why we do get some power into the work that we do. We have a purpose. We feel more powerful. We feel like we do have an impact on our world. That is something that God put him to work right away. But the other thing that he did do was he gave Adam a choice right away. He had a choice to eat or not to eat from the tree of good and evil. Like from the very beginning, this man was given choices of what to do. Now we're going to skip down to, okay. And then the Lord said, It is not good for that man to be alone. I will make him a helper to fit for him. Now, out of the ground, the Lord God had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heaven and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, what that was its name. The man gave names to all the livestock and to the birds of the air and to even beasts of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up in its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to man and said, "This is," and that gave him the helper. And so now, here we are too, Eve is also given this choice to either choose life or to choose death. Now we're going to go on to chapter 3. Now we're going to talk about the fall. So we know that Adam and Eve are created, put in the garden, put to work, but yet they are given this choice of whether they can choose life with Christ and eat from all these trees, or choose death and eat from the tree of good and evil. So verse 1 in chapter 3, Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God actually say, You shall not eat from any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden. But God said, You shall not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden. Neither shall you touch it, lest you shall die. And so I was reading through this when I was getting ready for this, and I was like, apparently, Adam and Eve lived for some period of time. I don't know for how long, but some period of time with this tree, and they never really thought much about it. Like, they just kind of accepted it. It's like, okay, that's a tree that we're not going to eat from, and they just kind of accepted that to be true. And they lived life, and there wasn't a big deal. Like, oh well. Now all of a sudden the serpent is coming into the place. But the serpent said to the woman, You shall not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took its fruit and ate, and she also gave it to her husband, who was with her, and ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. I'm going to take a little break because I just realized I need to go get some. I'm in a new phase of life and find that I don't read very well without my glasses. And so I'm trying to read my thing, and it's not going so well. So this will help. Here we go. Though now you guys are all blurry. This is not as fun. But anyways, I'm going to do this little above thing. Okay. Okay, so we're at the point where Adam and Eve get the fruit. And they take a bite. They make a choice. So they were making a choice all along not to eat the fruit, and all of a sudden they are now choosing to make a choice to eat the fruit. So let's read on and find out. So as soon as they did that, their eyes were opened. and they realized they were naked, and they immediately made another choice. Their other choice was to cover themselves. They begin to, what I want to say is they begin to hide themselves. So they don't like the fact that now they see that they're naked, and so now they're going to hide that fact. And then something else happens. In verse 8, they heard the Son of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. Now, we're kind of here saying that, like, God has given Adam and Eve power by the fact that he gave them a choice. This is not a matter of, I think, matter of God created this thing and then took all choices away from them and said, this is how you're going to live and you have no other way to live. This is it. He was like, this is what I've created you. Now I'm going to give you the power to choose it or not to choose it. Which way do you want to go? And they chose for a long time that they were going to not eat. They were going to choose life and live in the garden. And all of a sudden the serpent comes to the picture. They start to think otherwise and start questioning some things. And then they choose to eat the tree. Now the interesting part is just because they ate the fruit does not mean that they now don't have power. Because they continue to have choices. So they eat the fruit and they realize, oh, we just chose this, and this is what happened. Now they have a choice. They realize they're naked, now they have a choice to clothe or not to clothe. And what do? They choose to clothe. So they still have power, just like that power is not taken away from them just because they clothe themselves. They still now have more choices. Like those choices never disappear. The choices continue on. But now they're going to have another choice here soon. Because now they hear the sound of God coming into the garden, which is something that it's a common sound for them to hear. But this time they do something different. They don't run to God. They hide from God. So they're making another choice. They realize, oh shoot, God told us not to do something, and we don't want to admit that we did it. So what are we going to do? We're going to hide. We don't want God to see us in this, do this. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked and hid myself. He said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten? I can see it. If I put these on, it'll help me out so much better. Oh, wow. Who told you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you have given me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate it. Then the Lord God said to the woman, this is what you have done. So the cool part about this is they continue to choose, essence, they continue to choose death. They ate from the apple, and then they clothed themselves, and then they hid from God. And then all of a sudden, Adam chose differently. Adam chose to answer God when God called to him. And I was reading through this, and I was thinking, I wonder what life would have been like for us if Adam would have continued to choose to hide. Never chose differently to run to God and to seek out his guidance and to find out what's going to happen. And though Adam received there was a curse that was then given to him and to Eve. So there was a pretty steep consequence to this because he was still kicked out of the garden. And I'm assuming he would have still been kicked out of the garden if he would not have come to him. But what I find interesting is maybe because he did come to God, God put in the curses hope. Because when he gives the curse to the serpent, he tells the serpent how one day he will be conquered and the serpent will no longer have the influence that he has on man today. But if Adam never made that choice to have walked towards God at that moment in time, where would humanity be today? I don't know. But I think it's interesting. But the piece I want you guys to walk away from with that, to read through, is the power that was never taken away from Adam. He still always had choices. And seeing the fact that that is where we receive a lot of our power for, is the choices. We always have a choice. No matter what situation that we are in, there's always choices to be had. So now you're probably sitting here thinking, what in the world does power and choices have anything to do with cutting and burning and some of the self-harm that we can do to our bodies when we are in high-stress situations? So let's move on to that, and I will continue to refer back on how this all works, because it all has to do with the power that God's given us from the very beginning, and the fact that He's given us choices in our life. That He is not requiring us to follow Him and not have any, not have choices. Like, we have the choice whether we want to follow Him. We want a choice whether we want to spend eternity with Him. We have those choices. He could have created us and said, hey, look, you're my creation, and you have no choice whether you're going to spend eternity with me. But He gave us that choice. So let's look at how that plays out in this. So, you guys came to my talk last year. You were introduced to Jordan. Jordan looks a little different this year. Last year, he or she. They were a box. This year, it's a box full of sand. And that sand, where's that? There it is. So this sand kind of represents the chaos, the stressors that we have in our life. So Jordan has some stressors. So family, friends, school, relationships, even the stressors of dreams of what they want to become or what they want to do tomorrow. Jordan's hopes and how they come to play and how they're going to accomplish those things. And I think that I actually found this fascinating as I was putting this together, and I was looking at this and realizing, like, this is kind of how we start out life. Like, our stressors are just this big glob of sand in our lives that we don't really, it's just chaos. Like, you can't really tell one kernel from the other kernel. It's all mixed up. So family, friends, school, relationships, your dreams, they are like there's no beginning or end to them. This is just what it is, big old chaos. And so when we're babies, and your main stressor is the fact that you're hungry or you have a poopy diaper, it's all one big stress, and what do you do about it? You cry about it, because you can't do anything about it as a baby. You don't have any power besides crying about something. And so what happens is that these plastic bags represent the power that we have in our lives. And so what happens is our parents come in with their power and they scoop out your stress or the fact that you're hungry, and they put it in their bag, their power, so now it's like outside of Jordan, and it's contained. And when it's inside the power bag, there's something you can do about it. It's like categorized, it's being able to be worked with. So they put it in here, and they figure out some things to do, and when they feed you, that stressor disappears and it's taken out. And so they're able to kind of meet your needs, and all of a sudden you've got less stress going on inside your life, because your parents come in with their power, do something with it, and then they remove it from their power bag because it's now taken care of. They make choices for you. And they make choices for you until you're 18, because you live in the United States, and that's the time that parents are to make decisions for you. Now, as you get older, your parents begin, your bag gets bigger. As a baby, 2-year-olds have much smaller power bags than like you guys do. You guys have much bigger power bags. But parents start to slowly give you more choices. So they give you that choice. As a baby, you don't have a choice which baby food. You're going to eat the peas. It doesn't matter. But when you hit 2, your parents might give you a choice. Do you want a grilled cheese sandwich, or do you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And now all of a sudden you have the power to speak into life and choose which one you want. And if you choose not to choose, though, what tends to happen? Your parents choose for you and life moves on. So they put stuff into your bag that you struggle with. They will then go in and remove it and put it back into their bag, and they will do something about it. Now you guys are hitting this age where parents are doing less and less they're keeping a lot more stress in your bag, because the reality is you guys need to figure out what to do with this stress, because they're not going to be around forever. And the tricky part is other people are also putting things into your bag also, which is not your parents' responsibility to take care of. And so what happens now, though, is like our bag of all these things is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So we'll make this thing like really heavy. But as you are trying to figure out what to do with your power, because like everyone has their own like superhero power, sometimes you don't do such a good job of it. Like I remember, which one thing I love about The Incredibles is, you guys please tell me you guys have watched The Incredibles, right? Because it's an amazing movie. where the kids spend a lot of time like working on their power, right? They all have powers, but they're not very good at using it, and it takes them some time to like figure out like how to hone in and get good at it. And sometimes they do it really wrong, and sometimes they get it right. So your life gets heavy, and you're not quite sure what to do about all this stuff. You can't figure out how to take out some of this stuff. In life, the weight of the world is now on you. I'm talking like this is the kinetic stance. This is really heavy. So then what we do is we can't figure out how to get the stressors out of here. And so what we end up doing is we end up cutting. And every time we cut or we self-harm, we do something that's sabotaging. Like your bag does get lighter. It does get lighter as you go along. Like things it comes out slowly, and you start to feel better because life does get easier. And don't forget, there are some things that you guys are doing a great job making decisions about reducing the stress. And so there are some things that are coming out of your bag this way because you are making those choices of whether you want, what do you want for lunch because you're hungry, because you have the ability to go feed yourself. So the stressors of what you guys are making for lunch come out of your bag this way. But the interesting part is that when the stressors come out of the bag this way, you have control over them and they can go outside of here. When the stressors come out of the bag this way, after we harm ourselves, like it goes back into our life and it doesn't disappear. Because we didn't make any choices to do something about it. And so it just becomes this big, it goes back into the chaos of our life and doesn't go away. Because then we have to like pull it back in and put it back in the bag. So the weight of the world, it might feel better in the moment because your immediate power, the immediate bag is lighter, but you have to put it back in there. Like there's still something to do about it. And so I want you guys to see the fact that when we sabotage ourselves, when we self-harm ourselves, and that could be cutting, that could be burning, that could be all kinds of things. We're not really doing anything. We're not helping ourselves out very much because we're continuing to put the stressors back into our lives and not taking it out. So even though you might feel like it gives you more power, it doesn't really do that. So the question is, now lies, now lies in the fact that, so what do you do? Like, how is it that you take things, how do you learn how to take the stresses out of your life this way so that you don't end up with the chaos of life this way? One, I want to say is help is a big aspect of it. We have to ask for help. Here's a little tidbit on your life. Checking my time. Tidbit on your life. Did you guys know that choices are wrapped up in the fact that we have to problem solve? So in order to get choices, you have to problem. This goes back to the whole why it's important that you guys learn math. I know math has a bad rap, but the reality is math is very important for your developing brains. Math helps you guys problem solve. Because everything about math is one big giant problem, right? And that is your life. Your life is one big giant problem. You have problems left and right, and you've got to figure out the solution to each problem that you have in your life. And so next time you get really frustrated in math class, remember this is really, and people say, I'll never use algebra again. I said, they're wrong. You use algebra every single day of your life because every single day you have variables in your life that you don't know. You have A, B, C's, and D's in your life that you don't know, and you still have to solve the problem. You still have to find the solution, even if you don't know all the variables in the equation. Does that make sense? And so that is kind of what you do. So you're given a problem. Life gives you a problem, you have a stressor, and now you've got to figure out solutions. And you got to try one. So you might come up with like 3 or 4 different solutions and you try one. So we go back to Adam and Eve. They were given a choice. Sand is great until it like sticks all over your hands. So Adam and Eve were given a choice. Eat of the fruit, not eat of the fruit. Live with God, not live with God. They chose at one point in time to not live with God. And so now all of a sudden they needed some solutions. So they started like figuring out what those solutions were. And as they were figuring those out, and they were trying different things, it wasn't working for them. And at some point in time, they realized that this isn't working and this isn't working. So let's try this and see how this works. And they tried it and they liked the direction that one was going. And that is kind of what we need to do. When life gives us stressors, when life gives us hopeless situations, always remember that you guys always have the choice. I might even give the example of, the reality is if someone puts a gun to your head and says do this or you will die, you still have a choice. Like there's no question about that. There is still a choice that you guys are given. You may not like the choices given to you. You may not like the consequences that come with that choice, but you are still given the choice, and that is where your power lies. But when we self-harm ourselves, we're taking the choices out. We're no longer giving ourselves and allowing ourselves to have those choices. And so we need to find those choices. So some of the things I want you guys to do, 3 ways to kind of help you guys figure out how to find those choices in your life, how to choose life instead of destruction, because that's kind of what cutting any kind of self-harm. And I want to say, this isn't just about cutting. This is and burning and that kind of. This is anytime we self-sabotage ourselves, where we feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not good at math, and so I am just not going to study for this test because I know I'm going to fail anyways. And so you make that decision to not study for the test. That's kind of a self-sabotaging thing where you're like, I don't have a choice, I'm going to fail anyways, and so you take that choice out of your life and give up. And I want to encourage you guys that you feel powerless at that moment in time because you are not seeing the choices that you have in your life. And so, first thing, if you are taking notes, first thing I want you guys to write down is to know that you guys always have a choice. There are always choices. And if anyone ever makes you feel as though you don't have a choice, you tell yourself that's not true. I always have a choice. In college, I had to read a book by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a man, he was actually a psychologist, hence I had to read the book, and he grew up and he was a psychologist during World War II. So he was a Jewish psychologist though, so he ended up spending time in the concentration camps. And so he wrote the book, he survived them, and he wrote some books afterwards talking about his time in there and what life was like. And the thing that always hit me when I read that book is that he found that he knew when somebody was going to die in the concentration camp because he saw it in their eyes, they'd given up hope. That as long as people were choosing hope, would choose that someday they would be rescued, choose that someday this will come to an end, they would continue to live. And as soon as they would give up hope, and the fact that this is just the way my life is going to be, they would die. So every morning people would wake up and they would be given a choice. Do they choose hope and live, or do they choose death? And that is, no one can take that away from them. Hitler had taken away everything of these people, their home, their safety, their love, their security, everything. But he couldn't take away the fact that they chose what they were going to focus on every single day. You can't take that away. So there is always a choice. And as soon as we take that choice away from ourselves and do something, then you're right, you are kind of stuck. But always know, just like Adam chose differently at one point in time and changed the future, you always have a choice to kind of do something different, even though you have to sometimes face terrible consequences that go with it. Second thing I want you guys to remember is that you're not alone. We all at times feel powerless. We all at times feel overwhelmed. This is not, it all started back that Adam and Eve, I'm sure that instant moment when they realized, holy smokes, and they saw things, that was a very overwhelming situation for them. That you are not alone. And I think that sometimes when we do these kind of things, and therefore we don't talk about it, that isolates us, makes us feel like we're all alone in everything. But the best thing for you to do is to remind yourself that I'm not the only person who's stressed out. I'm not the only person whose parents are going through divorce. I'm not the only person whose boyfriend or girlfriend just broke up with me. You are not alone in this. And remembering the choices that you have. And then the third thing is telling somebody. Telling an adult, telling a counselor, telling somebody about it. We'll talk a little bit more about this because the question is, what do you tell them? Like, what do you do? You're like, I have told people, and then nothing's happened about it. So let's talk a little bit specifically about like how to tell somebody, and then some people who are here because they have friends, they know friends that do this, and they want to know how to help them. This is also a good one for you guys to write down too, of understanding what is it that you control in the situation, and what questions you should be asking when you have a friend that is doing this. So always remember, when you tell an adult, or if a friend or somebody tells you, knowing that you can't solve this problem. You cannot solve this equation. Like, this is something that is up to them. They make those choices every single day, what they choose to do. You cannot make that choice for them. And I think that's an important thing to kind of remember. That even though you tell somebody, does not mean that life is going to be great now, because now somebody knows and it's out in the open. No, because there's that daily choice of you just have to choose life instead of destruction. So always remembering that aspect of it. And knowing that just because you tell somebody, or just because somebody tells you, there are still consequences, because this bag still has holes in it. Like, things are still falling out of it, even though I am not actively cutting the bag, or not actively destroying the bag. Things are still falling out of it. So there are still consequences. And slowly but surely, with the help of packing tape in the bag, or whatever is going on in your life, that you can patch these things up, and packing tape can make this bag strong again. I love packing tape. Packing tape's great. But it's going to take a process, right? It's not going to happen overnight. The destruction is still there. So there are still consequences you have to suffer. Just like Adam still suffered the consequences, we are still suffering the consequences of the fact that he chose destruction over life that one time. And therefore, there are still consequences today. But that doesn't mean that we don't have choices today. It just means that we have different consequences that we're facing. And so sometimes you do have to face those consequences. But know, the more you choose destruction, the deeper the consequences, the more the consequences are. So the sooner you choose life, the least amount of consequences there are. And the other thing is to kind of figure out, because I'll be honest, when I have somebody in my office that is telling me that this is what they're doing, I'm okay with it. And I am not one to sit there and say, stop doing it. But I am going to ask them, why did you do it at that moment in time? What else could you have done at that moment in time? Talking through them of what were their choices. At some point, and of course, cutting was one of their choices. Like, that is always a choice, that they can do that. But the question is, for some reason, that is what they chose instead of choosing these other things. And kind of looking at what those other choices are. What made those choices hard? What were you afraid about those choices? And really asking yourself those kind of questions of, why is it that I chose destruction, which didn't really get me anywhere, except for in that moment in time it did make my bag lighter, but I still have to deal with the issue. Why didn't I choose something else that might have actually helped the situation? Which would have, and really looking at that. And those are the questions to ask with that adult, to talk about with that counselor, of why you chose that, and what things you can set up in your life that would make choosing life easier instead of choosing destruction. And then once you do that, I want you to remember that each time we do something destructive, we process it, we think about it, we learn from it. So when we say, like, you learn, failing at life is the best way of learning. Anyone who comes up with this great theory and does great things, they failed how many countless times before they actually succeeded. When we fail, we learn from it, we figure some things out, and once we figure it out, we've chatted about it and talked about it, we forgive ourselves, we stick it in the past, and we move on, because you have another choice at some other point in time. You don't always have to choose the same thing over and over and over again. There's always another chance to choose something else. And you may not get it perfectly the next time, but maybe you did it a little better the next time. And there's more light in that choice than destruction in that choice, and you're slowly moving yourself in that direction. But it's that idea of finding that hope, that we need to choose to keep hope in our lives. We need to choose to continue to choose light instead of choosing things that are just they're destructive. So always remember, though, there's choices in our life. And when we sabotage ourselves, we take those choices away from us. So nobody's taking those choices away from you except for yourself, because you always have a choice. I think there are bullies in our life that can make us feel as though we have no other choice. But that's a false sense of power for them. Because they're at that moment in time feeling they don't have a lot of choices in their life apparently, and so they are now choosing to do this to make you feel less powerful. But the reality is that you do have a choice, and don't let them make you believe that you don't have a choice in what you want to do. So that is what I have to say, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time to open up for questions, that kind of stuff for you guys. Because I know I don't always talk about everything that you guys want me to talk about. So if there are any questions that you guys have for me, feel free to raise your yes.
You just had a lot of these situations where it was a choice that you made, what if the situation your parents you don't have to do that.
So what if the situation is totally out of control, the fact that you don't want your parents to get divorced, but yet they're going to? Good question. Okay, so let's really think about this. In our life, we have certain things that we control and act on. This kind of goes back to kind of what we talked about last year. If you were here last year, we talked about things that we control and the things we don't control in our lives. We have to make sure that we're keeping track of, we only keep things in our lives that we control, and we put things outside of our lives that we don't control. And the reality is, you guys are not responsible for your parents' marriages. You guys are not responsible for other people's relationships. It affects you greatly, but you're not responsible for it. It is not your problem to solve. And so that moment in time, your choice is not whether your parents stay together or not. You don't have a choice in that, which is kind of what this question is going for. It's out of your control. But the question is, what choices do you have? You have choices still within that. Because you never had the choice of whether your parents are going to stay together. That was never your choice, because it was never within your control. And so you're looking at, what choices do I have? I have a choice of whether I'm going to have a relationship with both my parents. I'm going to have a choice whether I'm going to choose happiness and acceptance of the fact that this is what's going on and make the most of it. Or am I going to make everyone's life miserable right now because, which is in itself a self-sabotaging thing, correct? Like if you were miserable because you don't like the decisions someone else made, you're miserable to make everyone else miserable, which in turn will make you miserable because everyone else is miserable, and now there's no choices in that. And so you have to look back at your choices. When you get mad at the fact that things happen, that you may not be actively just destroying your body, but you're still destroying your life and the choices in the future that you want to have. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions about this? You guys are quiet group this year. Yes?
It's not so much a question, but there's a say the difference between, like, being super sad about your parents being divorced, or like being happy with
Yes.
and the choice part. Like, you can choose that you're going to move forward with your life, but you may not be happy with that situation. So you can make choices to become happy, or like to keep living, recognizing that's out of your control.
Yes. Yes. And so I think it goes back to the we have goals in life. Everyone has goals and dreams and things that they want to accomplish and do in their life. And we have to make sure those goals and those things. So if you have a goal that your parents will stay together for the rest of your life, it's not a very good goal because you don't control it. You want to make sure that you keep goals in your life that you control 100%. And so the things that you control in your life are your behaviors and your feelings and your thoughts. Those are the only three things in your life that you control. So you have 100% control over how you behave towards this thing that you don't like, what you think about this thing that you don't like, and how you feel towards those things that you don't like. That is what you control. And that is what you can work through. So if you don't like the fact that you are mad that your parents are getting divorced, you have complete control over what to do about it. You can go see a counselor, you can go talk to somebody to kind of process and think about what's going on, why this is frustrating you so much, and why you don't like it so much. What are you afraid of because your parents are getting a divorce, or whatever the situation that you don't like? What is it you are afraid of with that situation that makes you absolutely scared, and you don't like the idea that you're feeling scared, so you just get mad at it in hopes that you don't have to feel the scaredness or the fear, because being mad is sometimes so much more it's safer to feel mad than it is to feel the other things that we can feel. And so you choose what you're going to do about those feelings, because those are yours. So that recognizing what your goals are in life, what you control and what you don't control. Because it is okay to be totally upset and devastated that certain things happen, because it wasn't what you expected to happen. That is an okay thing to do, but we want to make sure we're taking that stressor out of our bag in a productive way that's going to get you going in the direction that you want to go, that keeps you ready and available to what God wants you to do. Because when we don't get rid of some of that stuff and process through that stuff, it kind of keeps us being as available for God's work. And that is the important part about figuring all this stuff out. Does that answer your question? Or